March 24th, Craig Garland.
Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men.
Craig runs a jail ministry and a local Bible study, both of which focus on helping people with addictions. Here's today's story.
God can use a man's "Yes, send me" to free the addicted. As Craig Garland made his 45-minute commute, he couldn't believe that at 42 years of age, he had even considered doing the one thing he had said he would never do. After years of his father's encouragement, Craig decided to volunteer to serve in his church at whatever capacity they could use him, and he had been adamant he would never do anything as drastic as attend Bible college. So when he enrolled for classes, he said to himself, "Never say never." Although Craig was sure that God had called him to ministry, he didn't have a clue as to what God had called him to do specifically. Craig hoped God would use Bible college to point him in the right direction. But 3 years later, Craig still sought direction. One morning as Craig was driving, he turned a curve and he saw a school bus on the side of the road. The children on the bus frantically waved their arms out the windows. As he got closer, he could hear their hysterical cries for help. Craig pulled up behind the bus, jumped out, and ran to the front of the bus. The driver was standing motionless, staring down over an embankment on the side of the road. Craig asked him, "What's wrong?" Shaking, the driver stuttered, "She's dead." Craig looked over the embankment, and there he saw it. A body was floating face down in a pool of water. Craig froze. Then 2 ladies ran over. They were nurses on their way to the local hospital, and they asked Craig to help them get the body out of the water. Craig told the children to stay on the bus. He and the 2 ladies stumbled down the embankment while the bus driver stayed with the children. Craig flipped over the body. It was a woman he had seen many times on his way to classes. The poor woman was a well-known prostitute who sold herself to feed her addiction. He had seen her walking up and down Highway 119. Now her body was beaten and bruised and ravished by years of drug abuse. Craig stared into her sunken eyes, and it was as if they stared back at him, asking him why he had never cared before. Why had he never stopped and offered her help? Why did he wait until it was too late? Craig thought, this lady was somebody's daughter, somebody's granddaughter, and maybe somebody's mother. Then he thought about his own daughter. If she were bound by addiction, he would want somebody to reach out to her, to tell her about the God who loves her, the God that can be closer than her breath, the one who can change her whole life, forever. If only somebody had taken the time to reach out, to show they cared, to share the gospel. If only he had. At that moment in Craig's heart, he heard the call of Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. It says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am, send me.'" Craig said, "Yes, send me. Send me to the people bound by addiction." Ambulance sirens broke the silence. The driver and his assistant loaded the lady onto a stretcher and then into the back of the ambulance. With tears streaming down his face, Craig stood there in disbelief as the ambulance drove away. He never saw the lady again, but he saw her face every time he looked into the eyes of a person bound by the chains of addiction. At the age of 42, God had put Craig on the road he wanted him to travel, but not by the means that Craig had expected. Craig could not change the fate of the lady who had walked Highway 119, but he could be a part of changing the course of countless others. As a result of that tragedy, Craig was inspired to start a jail ministry that focused on how to break the chains of addiction for inmates. As Craig continued to seek other opportunities, God opened the doors for him and his wife to teach the Bible to the women at an addiction recovery center in their hometown, Craig Garland found his purpose. Have you ever sensed God's call on your life? Are you willing to pray and ask God to send you to accomplish His purposes? Are you willing to say yes? God can use a man's "Yes, send me" to free the addicted.
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Join us tomorrow for another story at 365christianmen.com.